Welcome to Math 31, Lesson 6.4. In this short little lesson, we're going to learn how to solve percent problems using proportions. There are actually three parts to these problems. Usually one of them will be an unknown where you put a variable, but in this case, we're going to show all the numbers. This statement says that 16 is half of 32, or 50% of 32. Now, we have names for all of these parts. There's the percent part, there's the base, and there's the amount. And on the next two slides, I'm going to show you how to tell which is which. The easiest is to identify the percent. It usually has a percent sign, so 50% is your percentage. Sometimes you'll actually see the word percent, especially in a problem that's written out with words, but it's usually the easiest of the three to identify. Now, in this section, we're going to be writing percents as fractions. So 50 per 100 is how we'll be writing it. Distinguishing the base and the amount is different. The base is actually called the base amount, but we usually call it the base. And of the two, this is the easiest because it actually follows the word of. So find the word of, and in the English language, the next word will be the base amount in a percentage problem. Well, by process of elimination, that means that this is the percentage amount, which we shorten and call just the amount. So the base always follows the indicator word of. Okay, the setup is percent equals amount over base. But you need to remember that this percent has to be in fraction form. When you write it. Looks like it kind of squished it when I brought it in. You're going to have to put up with that. But anyway, the problem is shouldn't be up against that title, but I think you can still read it. Okay, translate into proportion format without solving. 18 is 25% of what number? We're going to start with the 25%. You write it like that. Then you find the word of, and the base will follow it. So we're going to put an unknown amount on the bottom. The base always goes on the bottom. And the amount over here, the 18, should go on the top. So it's always the amount on top here. And the base on the bottom. And this will always be the percent. Okay, we got about 6 of these where we're just writing it out. 2.7 is 4.5% of what number? So let's start with 4.5 per cent. And then the of is followed by an unknown, so we're going to have a base that's unknown, and the amount is 2.7. Number 3, we're supposed to just set this up. 6%. And then we have base, look for the indicator word, of 80, and an amount that we don't know. What number here? Okay, number 4 is going to probably follow some similar pattern as that last problem. 85.2 per, that's the division bar. Cent means 100, so percent means divided by 100. And the of will indicate the base, so we have a base of 4,000. And the amount here is unknown. So that's how you set that problem up. Okay, number 5 here. What percent of 10 is 4.5? This time the percent is unknown. Okay, the of will always be followed by the base number. And the remaining number has to be what's called the amount. What percent of 50 is 80? You'll notice that on these that the percent is unknown. I'm going to use a different letter than X. I'm going to use a P, and that's because when we solve these problems, they have an extra step. So the of indicates the base. We'll put 50 on the bottom and 80 on the top. 35% is 28% of what number? So we'll start with the percent information. Use fraction format. And the of is followed by an unknown amount. So the base is unknown, and the 35 goes in the remaining slot. Okay, now we're starting with, I need to go back because I forgot. This is one where we have to actually solve it. And to solve it, you cross multiply. So we're going to take, in this direction, 28 times x. And in the other direction, 100 times 35. And all we have to do now is divide by 28 to cancel off the 28. And by doing this, we find out that x will equal 3,500 divided by 28, which gives 125. Okay, we'll be solving the rest of these. Okay, 3.5%. Set it up as a fraction. The of is followed by an unknown, so we're going to have our x on the bottom this time. And we have our 6.3 on the top. Okay, when you multiply in this direction, you get 3.5x. And when you multiply the numbers in the other direction, you get 630. So we'll simply be dividing both sides by 3.5 here, which ends up giving us a value of 180 for our unknown value. Our base is 180. So 6.3 is 3.5% of 180 is how you would interpret that. Okay, on this next one here, we have a 6% figure, so we'll set up 6%. The of tells us what the base is, so we'll put the 200 where it goes in the base area, and the unknown is the other number. If you multiply in the uphill direction here, you get 100x. And when you go in the other direction, you get 1200. All we have to do now is divide both sides by 100. Cancel off these hundreds and you get x equals 12. So 12 is 6% of 200. All right, we've got 4 or 5 more problems here. What number is 8% of 350? 0.8% of 350. Once again, the of tells us that the number following is our base. 350 has to go on the bottom here, and the unknown number is up there. Okay, in this uphill direction, you get 100 times x. And in the other direction, let me see, we get 280, I think that is. So when we divide both sides by 100, we get an answer of 2.8. Okay, 42.5%. There's 42.5 per, and when you put the 100 underneath it, it's percent. And the of indicates that 620 is our base value. And so we're going to multiply in the uphill direction first, 100x. And when you multiply in the other direction, 42.5 times 620, you get a big value here of 26,350. You guys can use your calculators on this. And we'll divide by 100 in order to cancel these off and leave the value we're looking for, the x, and that turns out to be 263.5. Sorry about the bell in the background. I'm recording at my school. Okay, example 12, 5 is what percent of 80? Now this is the first one we have that has a percent, unknown percent. Excuse me. So we're going to be looking for a percentage, and when that's the case, you want to set it up like this. P percent is equal to the base underneath the other number, and then change it to a fraction. Later, we're going to have to put that percent sign back on the problem. And so these are handled slightly differently. In the downhill direction, you get 80 times P. And when you multiply 100 times 5, you get 500. So now we have to divide by 80. Which tells us 500 divided by 80 is 6.25. Now, if you think about it in this context, 6.25 over 100, you'll see that we still haven't got the percent sign on it. So all you do is an extra step on these problems is you actually put the percentage right back on it. And you don't change anything because it's the number in front of the percent that we called P. And so we just have to physically tack on that percent sign on these problems. So we'll have two more that are like that. What percent? 9.2 is what percent of 5. So the of 5 indicates we need the 5 on the bottom as a base and the 9.2 at the top. Then we write it as a fraction. Okay, when you go in the downhill direction, 5 times P, it equals the uphill direction, and 100 times 9.2 is 920. Divide both sides by 5 here. And you end up with a percentage value of 184%, and you got to tack that percent sign right back on it. Okay, 4 is what percent of 2,000? This will be our final problem. So we're looking for percent again. Of 2,000 tells us that we need to use a base of 2,000, and 4 goes on top. We'll trade this in for the other format, the fraction format. Cross multiply. And we'll divide both sides by 2,000. And you end up with P is equal to 400 divided by 2,000, which is 0.2, and this needs a percent sign on it. So less than a percent, to be precise, it's 0.2 of 1%. Okay, I hope this little video helps you as you try and finish section 6.4.